Welcome to the Sprinkles of Spirit podcast, where self-love meets faith, and your soul is reminded it's here to flourish. I'm Lisa, your guide to unleashing your full potential through soulful insights and grounded tools. This is your sacred space to heal, grow, and bloom wherever you are planted. I am here to remind you of your inherent worthiness to live an inspired life in your mind, body, and spirit. And may you always carry this sacred truth. You are loved beyond measure. Hi everyone, welcome back. I have a new trailer. How do you guys like it? So, for those of you who are new, I always like to start with one cycle of breath, and that's the yoga teacher in me, to get us fully present, as we all live our busy lives out there. So, obviously, if you're driving, you're not going to close your eyes, but you can still breathe with me. If you can, let's go ahead and close our eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose, filling up the belly, the ribs, the shoulders, the chest. Gentle exhale out of your mouth, relaxing the shoulders, letting go of your day. Breathing in through your nose as we slowly open the eyes. I love those tinctures. I love sound healing. Thank you. Thank you for breathing with me. So, how's everyone doing after the new moon in Leo? I took a poll on my Instagram asking, how are we feeling? Inspired or exhausted or a little bit of both? And it was a little bit of both. And I will tell you that is also what I've been feeling. So, but under the Leo, new moon, Leo is like fire, and I've been feeling very creative and bringing you guys up to speed. For those of you who have been with me on this podcast journey, thank you. And you are aware of, my little creative evolution. I became a yoga teacher in 2014. For those of you who are new, I'm going to bring you up to speed here. And been teaching yoga and meditation ever since. And after COVID, pivoted to the online world, to private classes and workshops. And in 2021, published a card deck, Sprinkles of Spirit. And that was a little passion project, and it was so cool to see it come to life. And it was the inspiration, behind starting this sacred container, essentially for us to connect and for me to share what came through me, to share a positive message from your angels, because that's where I draw from. I always ask for a message for our highest and greatest good. I do believe every one of us has angels around us, a spirit team, if you will. And I believe we can call on them, And so from the podcast, I've been obviously continuing to write, to share, and create and build community here online. And now today I have made my way to Insight Timer, sharing and recording meditations. And it's totally opened up a whole new world to me for, voice work, and like all these new passions are arriving, and it's been so fun. But you have, for those of you who've been with me, you've seen the evolution of Lisayogaangel, Sprinkles of Spirit, and now pivoting to Flourish with Lisa, because as I have been on my own personal journey of growth, of self-love and faith, I reached a point, my hashtag flourishing, 50 and flourishing year is almost coming to a close, you guys. I'm going to do a whole episode on that. But I just realized I've come to this place of embodying the lessons, embodying the strength, the resilience, the self-love that I have gained through the work that we all hear of, that we are faced with at one point or another, aka shadow work, right? It's the work we don't really want to look at. And I've come to a place where I feel confident in yet embodying a sense of humility. I embrace the mystery. I embrace the fact that I don't know it all, but I do know what I've learned, and I do know there's value in what I can share. And so the fire just is in me. It's lit up, and there's so much that, as Lisa Flora now, I also got married a little over a year ago, and everything shifted, and I dove deep, did work, shout out to Shelley Saunier. I worked with her and dove deep on my natal birth chart. Always been passionate about astrology, from quite young, have been very connected, with my upper chakras, really plugged in to sensing that there's something more to us than just this human experience. So along this journey, I also wrote an ebook, Keep Me Where the Light Is, and that kind of talked about my personal self-love journey. And now that I have made my way and I've done a lot of work, I have faced my shadow. I still face my shadow because I believe the work is never done. Like, I don't think we ever get to a point where, I'm the master, I know it all. Like, no. This is a journey of evolution, of loving ourselves truly through and through. It's an evolution, it's a journey, it's a process, and we're all set to go on this journey at a certain pace. And we're all, I believe, at the point where we are supposed to be, So making my way, bringing you up to speed to Insight Timer, where I am now joining in community. I'm able to connect live with you, and I'm leaving the link in the description because I really encourage you to join me there. It's been so wonderful and so powerful because it kind of opened up this door of creativity. Like, as soon as I started doing that and using my voice, which has been a big part of my personal growth journey, I was a young girl who never spoke and all of that. If you're new here, I encourage you to tune in, binge listen to my episodes. You hear it all. But now that I'm there, it's like this door has been opened to all this creativity, and all these ideas, inspired creative ideas, are flowing through me, and for a purpose that's greater than myself. Because I remember myself, the old me, I'm going to say, it's like Lisa 1.0, who was stuck in fear and insecurity and comparison syndrome, in just this incredible amount of fear, really, of not sharing my voice and not shining my light. And I remember feeling discouraged, for many, many years, and on the outside, of course, I made sure I looked fine, kept myself together, everyone, people close to me knew the challenging chapters that I've been through, that we all go through, but there really was a deep part of me that felt, a little broken, and lost, and I will tell you, as a woman who is 50 now, my ladies out there of all ages who are listening to this, I'm sure you can relate. And as a woman, society puts a lot of pressure on us to fulfill a certain role, right? That build this life that's supposed to look like a certain way, that you're supposed to check all these boxes off. And whether it's marriage or, graduating college or getting married and then having children and then, keeping all of that together. And, oh, by the way, be sure you're in tip-top shape. And, so it's like, there's a lot of pressure for us to maybe create this quote unquote story of our life that's quote unquote acceptable, right? Where, I was reaching the ages of 30, and then 31, and then 33, and then 35, and then 40, and all these boxes just were not checked off, and I was like just in a tough spot. But so here I am today, fast forwarding through all of that. How did I get to a place, of feeling confident and of really embodying what self-love is, and diving deep and strengthening my faith? And when I look back, it's like what I realize, and there's a saying that many of us have heard of, and I remember going years going, what the hell does that mean? And the saying is, what you resist persists. What you resist persists. Well, what the heck does that mean, right? Today, I have a full understanding because I can look back and go, oh, when we go through challenging experiences, heartbreaking relationships, heartbreaking moments, traumatic events, and we just kind of want to sweep it all under the rug and keep moving forward and not really look at or dive deep into the situation and the underlying pain and emotions that are there. Well, this resistance, this avoidance, this unwillingness is a form of focus. And when we're resisting the pain and the emotions and the situations or the truth of what we need, the lesson within that situation that we are meant to learn, we are unconsciously giving it more energy. We're feeding it. And we think we're pushing something away where the reality is we're keeping it alive. We're keeping it alive. We're keeping a core lesson swept under the rug that we need to really take a look at and learn and grow from, rather than when we have painful emotions, it's not about let me avoid it, let me not look at it, let me just move on. Because those emotions, if they're not felt, they stay stuck. And I didn't learn that, I believe, fully until I began my physical yoga practice and I realized something was happening on the mat. That mat really was a mirror reflecting back to me the issues that were in my tissues. It was like all of these emotions were like coming up to the surface, and I was exhaling it all. And I was like, what is happening? Because there was this shift, and I was learning and peeling back all of these layers of what I had been through and really uncovering the crap, the deep, dark pain. And it was uncomfortable, but it was working, and I was like, that's what kind of led me to yoga teacher training. And it was all by divine alignment, divine timing. Everything was just perfectly aligned for me to take that yoga teacher training. But I really wanted to go deeper and have a full understanding of, why is this practice working? What is happening on the mat? And I realized there was just a lot of unprocessed emotions. And I realized, the years that I had gone thinking I was lacking this or lacking that, and I wasn't complete, focusing on the lack, I was essentially creating more of it, And the resistance was the form of focus. I was keeping it alive. And so I just want to share with you today that the path, when I look back on my own journey of self-love, my path of self-love, the transformation happened when I leaned in to the discomfort. I went there. And whatever practice speaks to you, and I'm not saying maybe it's not going to be yoga for you. Maybe it's not even meditation, maybe it's a different form of therapy, of getting a spiritual coach or working with a spiritual mentor, or beginning to go to a church, or opening up a spiritual book, or buying a book, or, for me, reading. The books are my tools. They were my therapy for many, many years before I engaged in actual spiritual coaching. It could be diving into your natal birth chart. The amount of aha moments I have today, still looking at my chart and going into it and understanding it, it's incredible. The mirror that your chart is. There's different ways of leaning into the discomfort, and it's finding what speaks to you, what kind of brings it out of you, kind of allows this outer shell. And I have a vision of a rock, of like chipping away at the hard shell that life has created around you. Like there's going to be a form, a practice of something that is going to start chipping away at that, getting to your true essence, the light, the diamond within the rock that's ready to be brilliant, that's ready to shine, that's ready to be inspired to walk out the door with gratitude every day, with your breath, with appreciating nature, with appreciating the people in your life, with raising your vibration. And when you do that, that's the transformation that happens. That's when things shift and you're able to finally turn that page on the chapter that seems like it's not closing. You are able to turn the page, and the story that was always meant to be lived begins. But it's only when, and I'm giving you the keys. This is the key to transformation. It's leaning into that discomfort. Because when you do, like I said, your vibration raises, your angels are there answering your prayers, the universe responds, God responds. We can let go and let God. We can. Because when we're resisting what needs to be looked at, when we're resisting the lesson we are meant to learn, your life has a way of repeating the same patterns, presenting you with the same situation, but it may be with different people, different settings, different dynamics, but the underlying emotional dynamics that we need to face, that's ready to be healed, it's the same. And that's how if there's anyone out there wondering, how do I know, when I'm on the right path? It's number one, we're not betraying ourselves. And number two, you're not having these repeated, similar, reoccurring lessons, reoccurring situations that are uncomfortable, that are painful, that are not essentially what you want to manifest and experience in your life. And I've done other episodes on shadow work and diving deep into the pain, and I don't take it lightly because that work is deep and that work is meaningful and needs to be handled with sensitivity and with deep, deep resonance, with care, with someone you trust, with practices that speak to your soul. And remember, when we go through things in life, let's say some of us are like, no, but that person or that situation was really painful. It was traumatic. If you're struggling with forgiveness or struggling with acceptance, I want to say acceptance doesn't mean you agree with what someone did, with what challenging experience you had, whether it was right. It simply means we are willing to see clearly. And when we can accept something, that's the first step up the ladder to change and transformation. You take that next step because we're no longer resisting. We stop resisting, we stop avoiding, we stop denying what is. This happened to me. Let me take a look at it. Let me dive into the lesson that I meant to learn. And I want to tell you, at the core of it is normally we're faced with the mirror of our, looking at ourselves and whether or not we are truly embodying self-love. When we can acknowledge, we transform. When we resist, it will persist and we remain entangled with what is holding us back. So I'm going to leave you with, and one practice I will tell you that to this day, I still use actively is journaling. I have journals and journals and journals and it's really a beautiful experience and a powerful mind, body, spirit practice because you're actively allowing something to flow through you and then physically releasing it, when you're writing. I really encourage you to try it, if you've never tried journaling, but I really want to leave you with just a few journal prompts this week. And it's, what am I currently resisting in life? What am I currently resisting in life? And what uncomfortable truth or emotion have I been avoiding? What uncomfortable truth or emotion have I been avoiding? And then let that kind of be, let it take you somewhere, right? Just right, breathe for a few moments like we did, connect to your breath and let it flow. And let it maybe be the beginning, the beginning of your next chapter and the beginning of finally turning that page, starting the new chapter and living a life that you are meant to live, of inspiration, of love, of joy, of creativity. It is possible at any age. And I want to tell you, it is never too late. It is never too late. Let me be your guide on that journey. And I always, refer to myself as a guide because I am extending out my hand, my voice, and taking you on a journey to love yourself through and through. Because when we love ourselves through and through, from that place, that's where we create from. That's where we become high vibe and we align. We come into alignment with all that supports our highest good in the form of relationships, of the work we're meant to do in the world, and of being of service, and of embodying what self-love means and living a life filled with faith. And I'm going to take you there. I'm still here and I'm committed to this container, and I'm going to leave the links to my space on Inside Timer because it's a different feeling. Like you listening to my voice, I know is one feeling, but I want to tell you these lives, and I am, yes, teaching physical asana yoga classes, meditation, and having these live Dharma talks there. So I schedule them as I am inspired to share. So I'm going to leave a link to that, to upcoming lives. And I'd love to see you there, and because it's a different vibration, being in the here and now live with each other. And it's so, so cool. I've been doing new and full moon meditation and pick a card readings. That is a really great practice for your intuition, and more to come. And this episode came from because I'm in the middle of writing my first course that will be published this year as well. And it's going to be a self-love reset, and I'm really excited about that. So thank you for still being here. And please, I would love it if you would leave a review or share this episode with someone you know who could use a little sprinkle of spirit this week. And until next time, I will meet you right back here. Have a beautiful week. Namaste.